Hi everyone, welcome to this new course of Wi-Fi Troubleshooting Fundamentals. My name is Vidur Batra and I'll be your trainer for this course. As you know already from my other courses, I currently work in Juniper Networks as a pre-sales technical leader for India and SARC. I've spent around 4 years in the past in Cisco escalation TAC, and I've spent around 18 months in Aruba escalation TAC. I've also was privileged to work in Cisco as a consulting engineer where I used to handle customers globally. So I spent around 6 years in the technical assistance center of Cisco and Aruba, where I used to troubleshoot Wi-Fi issues day in day out. And even though I moved past that role, after 6 years, I still, when moved to a consulting role, I was still responsible to troubleshoot a lot of cases that would come, issues that would come in customer network. Even now, when I work in pre-sales in Juniper, I still happen to often solve, issues that come up in the customer's network. So this troubleshooting skill that I developed long back at the starting of my career, that was 11 and a half years back when I joined Cisco TAC. I still carry it with me, and it's still a very very handy skill to have, and which is pretty much what I use day in day out even now. So yeah, I mean it's a little different from wired. In when I talk about wired, we all know that layer one is a wire, right? That is the layer one of wired networks. Then when I talk about 802.11 networks, that's wireless, right? RF becomes layer one, right? And that is a little unpredictable. We know that RF can be unpredictable. RF is something which is not very reliable often because of other multiple issues that are happening around it, which we will discuss in this entire course. So as a network admin, it becomes very critical and very essential for me to have this skill set of troubleshooting. Otherwise, it's not very straightforward in as it is in wired, because I don't know what's really going on in the RF, right? In the wired, you're able to capture traffic very easily. It's a wire, and in layer one, and wired is comparatively predictable. When it comes to wireless, it's definitely unpredictable. So it's a very very handy skill to have, in especially when you're trying to troubleshoot a Wi-Fi network. Okay. So as a wireless admin, or as a network admin, what do you need to do? You need to be able to basically diagnose the problem first. Isolation of the issue is very very important. Okay, you need to isolate the problem first. That is very essential. So first of all, how do we isolate the problem? As a network admin, if I was the one responsible for this particular Wi-Fi network, I would check if the issue is happening on layer one. Okay, I would check if the issue is happening on either layer one or layer two. Let's take some examples. Layer one could be as simple as AP power issue. Okay, it could be no power, or it could be less power. I'll tell you what these basically mean. So in the second problem that we can have in layer one is could be a client driver issue, right? Client driver issue could be the problem. When I talk about layer one and no power, the AP not getting power, of course the AP not coming up. But what about less power? Very often the switch on which the AP is connected is not giving out enough power that the AP needs to fully power up. Nowadays, with the .11 AX access points that are out in the market, an AP requires around 25.5 to 30 watts of power to come up, and fully function well, right? With the less power given, a 4x4 AP might fall to 2x2, which will cause performance issues on the ground, which will cause issues where the clients are not able to function properly, or you'll see less throughput and all those kind of things that will have an impact on the user journey or the user experience on the ground, right? So that is something which you should be prepared to look at initially, right? Now coming to the layer 2 issues, I can talk about something like let's say an authentication issue, or let's say an association problem, which again both of them could be on layer 2. Now these two problems on layer 2 basically, so this is basically a physical layer issue, right? You know what layer 1 is, I'll just write it down. This is a data link problem, data link layer issue, as you know, that is layer 2. And it could be because of, you know, improperly configured security parameters. I mean, it's as simple as that. Let's say this is because of an improper security parameters configured on the client or on the access point or on the WLC, anywhere, and exactly the same for association as well. So these kind of things are something that we need to isolate and look at, and as a network admin, it's my responsibility to be able to figure out where the problem really is, right? Now you look at layer 1 issues, and if there are no issues, then you go to layer 2 and figure out, yeah, if there's any issue going on in layer 2 or not. So that's my first job. I need to be able to know what exactly, you know, where exactly is the issue happening, whether it's on layer 1 or layer 2, right? In this entire course, we're also going to focus on some coverage considerations. Let me just write it down here. Coverage considerations to make whenever we deploy a Wi-Fi network. We also want to make sure, with the coverage configuration, we also want to make sure we develop some troubleshooting skills, right? Troubleshooting skills. And we also, along with these things, problems happening on the RF or RF interference, problem happening, you know, along with RF. Let's say, for example, we have an issue with the roaming, or we have mobility is a very, very important part of Wi-Fi, right? So when I talk about mobility, I mean roaming. So any issue happening with roaming, RF, and wireless anyway is a half duplex medium, so that also brings in a lot of challenges. Unlike full duplex, where you have the full medium to transfer or transmit data, transmission and receiving can happen at the same time. That is not the case with Wi-Fi, and that's pretty much why half duplex also brings in a lot of issues on its own, right? And we're going to cover all these things in this particular chapter. All in all, what we're going to do is, once you finish this course, you should be able to identify the issue. You should be able to troubleshoot the issue. You should be able to prevent the issue from happening as well. Okay. So these three things is something which we're going to focus on. And in the next, this was just an introduction video, so I will go in depth into a lot of things moving forward in the subsequent videos. So some very good and very interesting things to come in the next chapter. So stay tuned and stay hooked to the laptop. If you have not yet, I mean, I'm going to be using some terms which I explained in my other course, that is Wi-Fi Fundamentals course. I would request you to go through that first before you come into this course, because that's going to form the base of your knowledge of Wi-Fi. And then we will be using some terms here. As you already can see, I've used some terms like RF interference, mobility, half duplex, all those things, authentication, association, all those things are anyway explained very well in the last course that I did. So look, you know, so if you have not done it yet, enroll into that one as well. Learn the fundamentals first, and then you can come on to this particular course and watch the videos of troubleshooting as well. By the way, I also want to mention that what we are not going to cover is what will not be covered in this video is vendor specific troubleshooting knowledge. Okay, I am not going to cover any vendor. I'm not going to cover Cisco. I'm not going to cover Aruba. I'm not going to cover Juniper. I have 11.5 years of experience working in these three companies, but I don't want to cover anything vendor specific in this video. This is purely Wi-Fi fundamental troubleshooting video, Wi-Fi troubleshooting fundamental video course, where I'm going to be talking about IEEE Wi-Fi. Okay, and anything vendor specific, you can ping me on LinkedIn. I can definitely help you one-on-one, no problem. But in this particular course, I will only be covering strictly IEEE Wi-Fi. Okay, so I mean, thank you so much for subscribing to this course. Let's move on to the next video, where I'm going to talk about something very, very interesting. Thank you.